I was supposed to get married last month. Everything was planned, dress ready, guests invited, cake ordered. We spent months putting it all together. The whole thing was happening in Savannah, Georgia, where we live. I honestly thought everything was perfect. My fiancé, let's call him Derek, and I had been together for 3 years. I genuinely believed he was the one. Sure, we weren't perfect, but who is? We didn't fight much, he made me laugh. We wanted the same things out of life. I was genuinely happy. His parents? Not so much. His mom, Ruth, is one of those people who looks at you like she's mentally calculating whether your shoes are expensive enough for her to acknowledge your existence. His dad, Walter, doesn't say much unless it's to brag about his luxury car or complain about kids these days. They never really liked me. I'm not from some prestigious family, I have a normal job, and I couldn't care less about golf memberships or which Ivy League school you attended. I knew they thought Derek could do better, but he always reassured me not to worry. He said they'd eventually come around. Spoiler alert, they didn't. About a week before the wedding, Derek casually mentioned that his parents were taking him on a family trip to Miami. No particular reason, just one last getaway before the big day. I thought the timing was bizarre, but I didn't want to start a fight over it. So I said, okay, have fun. Looking back, I should have known something was seriously off when he seemed way too eager to leave. He barely said goodbye when he left that Thursday morning, like he couldn't wait to get out the door. By Saturday night, I knew in my gut that something was wrong. Here's where it gets interesting. My best friend Collie lives in Miami, total coincidence. She works at this upscale bar downtown, the kind of place people go when they want to flaunt how much money they have. She called me during her shift, sounding confused. Hey, isn't Derek supposed to be getting married next weekend? Yeah, why? I asked, already feeling my stomach drop. Well, I think I just saw him with his parents. And some girl. My blood ran cold. She described the scene. They'd been sitting at one of the VIP tables all night. Derek, his mom, his dad, and some random girl. Young, blonde, fake tan, short dress. Not someone who looked like she just happened to be sitting nearby, if you know what I mean. Collie said Ruth and Walter were all over this girl, laughing with her, asking her questions, treating her like she was already part of the family. And Derek? He wasn't exactly pushing her away either. That's when it hit me like a freight train. They didn't just want to get away before the wedding. They wanted Derek to meet someone else. And they were doing it exactly 1 week before I was supposed to walk down the aisle and marry him. I don't remember much after that phone call. I sat on my couch in complete silence for what felt like hours. Then the shock wore off, and I got mad. Really, really mad. And here's the thing about me: when I get angry, I don't get emotional and sloppy. I get focused and strategic. Sunday morning, I started making calls. I found a private investigator in Miami who specialized in relationship issues. I paid extra to have him follow Derek and his family until they left town. By Monday afternoon, I had the first batch of photos. Tuesday, I had video footage. Wednesday, I had a comprehensive report. Restaurants, hotel bars, poolside lounging, shopping excursions, romantic dinners. Every single event. Derek was positioned right next to this girl, holding doors open for her, laughing at her jokes, sitting uncomfortably close. His parents were actively encouraging it the entire time. There was even a photo of Ruth and Walter walking ahead of them, holding hands like proud parents, while Arik and this mystery girl lagged behind, whispering to each other like teenagers with a secret. I didn't tell anyone about what I'd discovered. Not yet. I just waited. Derek returned late Sunday night. Monday morning, he came over to my apartment. I acted completely normal. Made coffee, asked how the trip went, smiled like nothing had changed. He was quiet, jumpy, couldn't maintain eye contact. I could practically see the guilt radiating off him. Then he said it, I think we should take a break. I stared at him. A break. 6 days before our wedding. I didn't ask why. I didn't ask what had suddenly changed his mind. I just smiled, reached over to the coffee table, grabbed the folder containing all the photos and the investigator's report, and slid it across to him. That's funny, I said calmly, because I'd just got some very interesting information about that trip. He opened the folder, and at first he looked confused. Then his face went completely white. I watched him flip through the pictures over and over, like maybe if he stared at them long enough, they'd magically transform into something else. They didn't. And that's when the front door opened. Ruth and Walter walked in like they owned the place. Ruth was carrying a wedding planner. Walter was glued to his phone. Hope we're not too early, Ruth announced cheerfully. We have so much to go over today. Then she saw Derek's ashen face, the open folder, and me sitting there with my coffee, calmly observing the entire scene unfold. Nobody spoke for a full minute. The silence was deafening. Then Derek finally found his voice. What the hell is this? But he wasn't asking me. He was staring directly at Ruth and Walter. Walter pretended he hadn't heard the question. Ruth tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. Derek looked back at the folder, then at me. How did you get these? I shrugged. Doesn't matter. You and your parents can figure out what to do next. I'm done. The silence that followed hung in the air like thick fog. Ruth set her planner down on the counter like we were still going to sit down and discuss flower arrangements or seating charts. Let's not overreact, she said, all smooth and fake, like I was being unreasonable. These pictures don't mean anything. We just wanted Derek to meet some new people. That's perfectly normal. I looked at Derek. He was still staring at the folder like he was trying to decode some secret message hidden in the photographs. New people? I repeated, louder than I intended. A week before our wedding? You thought that was normal? Walter finally looked up from his phone. Don't make a scene, he said without even blinking. We were thinking long minus term. We didn't want Derek tied down if there might be better options out there. I swear I felt all the air leave my lungs. Better options. Derek didn't say a word. He just kept flipping through the folder like the outcome might change if he examined it from a different angle. His face was red now, whether from embarrassment or anger, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. You let them do this, I said to him. You went along with it. He finally looked up. It wasn't like that. What was it like? I asked. You thought maybe you'd test drive someone new while your fiancé stayed home finishing the guest list? He rubbed his forehead like I was the one causing problems. I just wanted to keep the peace. That's when I laughed. It wasn't even intentional, it just burst out of me. Loud and sharp. Keep the peace, I said. You could have just told me you didn't want to get married. Instead, you flew to Miami to see if someone better came along. Ruth sat down on my couch like she lived there. This is getting ridiculous. We didn't tell you because we knew exactly how you'd react. Emotional, over the top. Look at yourself. I don't know what came over me, but I picked up the folder, pulled out one of the clearest photos of Derek and the girl Dinner's Madison, according to the report minus, and held it directly in Ruth's face. This is ridiculous, I said. You brought her on a trip with your son and tried to replace me. How do you not hear yourself? Walter stood up and straightened his jacket like he was leaving a board meeting. You should calm down. This doesn't need to get messy. That's when something inside me shifted completely. Oh, it's already messy, I said. And it's about to get much worse. I didn't even mean to say it, it just slipped out. But the second I did, I realized I wasn't bluffing. I still had the rest of the private investigator's report sitting in my email. A whole lot more than what I'd printed out. Receipts, room charges, flight itinerary changes. I even had a video of Ruth and Madison sitting at the hotel bar while Ruth told her, word for word, once this little wedding blows over, you and Derek will have all the time in the world. I hadn't shown Derek that part yet, or anyone else. But now I was seriously considering it. Derek ran his hand through his hair. Look, I don't even like Madison. My mom invited her. It wasn't my idea. Did you tell her to leave? Did you tell your parents no? Silence. Complete silence. Yeah, thought so. Then Ruth looked straight at Derek, completely ignoring my presence. Enough. Don't let her ruin everything. We can fix this. Just tell her you didn't mean it, get her to calm down, and we'll move forward with the original plan. She actually said that. Right in front of me. Like I was just an obstacle to smooth over. That's when Derek finally snapped back to reality. Mom, stop. For the first time, Ruth looked genuinely surprised. What? Stop, Derek said again, quieter this time. You're making everything worse. Oh, now I'm making it worse, Ruth shot back. And the one who spent months cleaning up after her bad taste. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this wedding has been for us? The guest list, the menu, the decorations. None of it meets our standards. My head felt like it was going to explode. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked directly at Derek. And this is what you're okay with? You're still going to defend them? He didn't answer. That's when my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down. It was Collie. Text message girl, I just overheard Madison at the bar. You're not gonna believe what she's saying. Call me ASAP. I locked eyes with Ruth. I think I'll be making some calls, I said, standing up. Actually, I think I'll be making a lot of calls. Walter finally decided to speak again. Let's be reasonable. We don't need to drag this into something public. Too late. Because that's when I got an idea. If Madison was still in Miami running her mouth, I wanted to hear exactly what she was saying. And if Ruth and Walter thought this was going to stay quiet, they had absolutely no idea who they were dealing with. I didn't answer Kalia's text immediately. I just stood there staring at the three of them sitting in my living room like this was some normal Monday morning conversation. Derek looking guilty, Ruth looking annoyed, Walter pretending he wasn't involved. All I could think was, what else are they hiding? I turned to Derek. How long have you known Madison? He shook his head. I told you I didn't know her before the trip. Reese coughed. Please, stop acting like you're on trial. Nobody did anything wrong. But Derek didn't look so sure anymore. I grabbed my phone and walked into the kitchen. Called Cully. She picked up on the first ring. Hey, you need to hear this, she said urgently. Madison's been here all afternoon bragging about how she's finally sealing the deal. I didn't say anything, so Cully continued. She told her friend that your wedding was never supposed to happen. Apparently, Ruth promised her that if she got close enough to Derek on the trip, they'd take care of the rest. Take care of the rest, I repeated. Yeah, like in the wedding. Replace you. Madison's been telling everyone that she was specifically flown out to Miami to break you two up. My heart started pounding. This wasn't just some random invitation. This wasn't spontaneous, Cully said. They planned the entire thing. I hung up, walked back into the living room, set my phone on the table, and looked straight at Ruth. So, I said, how much did you pay her? She blinked. Excuse me? Madison, how much did you pay her to come on the trip and throw herself at Derek? Walter shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Derek rubbed his hands over his face. Ruth smiled condescending. You really are dramatic. I just got off the phone with someone who heard Madison explaining the entire plan. She said you promised her the wedding would be called off, that Derek would be available. So again, how much did you pay her? Still no answer. Then Derek looked at Ruth and said quietly, Wait, did you? And Ruth, bless her heart, didn't even try to deny it. She just shrugged. We gave her a little incentive. Nothing serious. A few gifts, some spending money. Why are we acting like this is such a crime? I couldn't believe it. They literally paid another woman to help break us up before the wedding. Derek just sat there like he was finally realizing how deep in this mess he really was. I thought you invited her as a friend of the family, he said weakly. Ruth laughed. Please, eyes. You didn't seem to mind her company. Now Derek looked physically sick. That's when I decided to take it even further. Oh, and by the way, I said, Madison's been running her mouth all day. If I wanted to, I could share that little story with a few people. Maybe post it online. Maybe send it to the wedding venues. Maybe let all the wedding guests know exactly why things are suddenly off. Walter cleared his throat. There's no need for that. Let's not do anything drastic. Drastic? I said. You think I'm being drastic? Your family tried to replace me a week before my wedding, and I'm the problem here? And then, like the perfect cherry on top, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Cully just found out Madison's still in town. And she's asking when Derek's coming back. I looked at Derek. Did you know she stuck around? He shook his head frantically. No, I didn't. I haven't talked to her since the trip, I swear. But now all the pieces were clicking into place. Ruth hired Madison to get inside Derek's head. Ruth probably promised her way more than just spending money. Madison was clearly expecting this to turn into something real and lasting. And Derek? Either he was lying through his teeth or he was completely clueless. Neither option was particularly appealing. Tell me the truth, I said to him. Did you ever want to call off the wedding before Miami? He hesitated for a long moment. Maybe, he finally admitted. I wasn't completely sure. And they kept saying maybe I should see what else is out there. I just nodded. Cool. Good to know. Because that was all I needed to hear. I wasn't just dealing with manipulative future and minus laws. I was dealing with a man who sat back and watched it all happen, then called it keeping the peace. And Madison wasn't just some random girl they invited on a whim. She was part of the plan. A plan that apparently wasn't over, because if she was still in town waiting for Derek to come crawling back, Ruth's little replacement scheme wasn't finished yet. But here's the thing, neither was I. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up replaying everything over and over. The trip, Madison, the lies, the fact that Derek had actually admitted he wasn't even sure he wanted to marry me before Miami. By morning, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I made a few strategic calls. I forwarded the private investigator's complete report to Collie. I texted my maid of honor, Tina, to meet me at the coffee shop near my apartment. I needed backup for what I was planning. "Are you absolutely sure you're ready for this?" Tina asked over coffee. "Oh, I'm way past ready," I said. It's time they explain themselves in front of everybody. And that's how I ended up inviting Derek, Ruth, Walter, and Madison to the actual wedding venue the next day. I told them we needed an urgent meeting about the ceremony. Ruth, naturally, loved the idea of a last-minute rehearsal. She had absolutely no clue what was coming. By noon, everyone was there. The venue staff were setting up chairs for what was supposed to be our actual wedding in just a few days. It felt completely surreal watching them work while my entire relationship was about to explode into pieces. Madison showed up last, dressed like she thought she was the bride. Short white dress, sky-minus high heels, makeup like she was heading to an exclusive nightclub. When she walked in and saw me, she actually smirked. "I didn't realize this was a group meeting," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yeah," I replied calmly, figured we'd clear the air. Everyone sat down at one of the big round tables meant for the reception. Derek looked absolutely exhausted. Walter looked bored. Ruth looked smug. Madison looked like she thought she'd already won some kind of prize. And me? I opened my laptop, connected it to the venue's projector, and pulled up the photos from the private investigator's report on the big screen behind me. First slide Derek and Madison by the hotel pool, laughing together. Second slide Ruth and Madison having drinks, heads close together in conversation. Third slide Madison kissing Derek on the cheek while Walter watched approvingly. Nobody spoke. Then I hit play on the video. The one where Ruth told Madison, word for word, "Once this little wedding blows over, you and Derek will have all the time in the world." The room was silent except for the sound of Ruth's own voice echoing off the walls. When it ended, I turned around. "Anyone want to explain that?" Ruth finally broke. "Oh, grow up. You're making this into some kind of scandal. Nothing actually happened. Derek didn't cheat. Madison is just a friend." "A friend you paid," I said. "We know." Madison told everyone at the bar in Miami. Half of South Beach knows the plan by now. Madison flipped her hair dismissively. "Well, I wouldn't say half of South Beach. But yeah, it wasn't exactly a secret. Your little wedding was never going to happen anyway. Derek deserves someone who would actually fit in. Someone with class." She actually said that. Out loud. In front of everyone. Tina, who had been quietly observing until now, let out a sarcastic laugh and muttered, "Jesus Christ." Then Derek stood up. For a split second, I thought maybe he was finally going to defend me, stand up for what was right. But no. He looked at his mom, then at Madison, then at me. And all he said was, "I think we should all just go our separate ways." That's when I realized he was never going to stand up for me. Not now, not ever. This wasn't just Ruth's plan that Derek got caught up in. Derek was completely fine with it. Maybe he didn't mastermind the idea, but he let it happen. He watched it happen. He wanted a way out, and his parents handed it to him on a silver platter. I closed my laptop, packed it into my bag, and stood up. "Well," I said, "this is the last time any of you will ever see me. Good luck explaining this when people start asking why the wedding's suddenly off." And with that, I walked out. The second I stepped outside, Tina followed me. "You handled that like an absolute queen," she said. "Seriously, you should have slapped someone, but that was so much better." Collie called me about 10 minutes later. "You are not going to believe this," she said, barely containing her laughter. "Madison's already posting Instagram stories acting like she just got engaged to Derek. I mean, literally hashtagging things like future misses." And I laughed. Not because it was funny, just because what else can you do at that point? By the end of the day, word started getting around. People were texting me, asking why the wedding was suddenly canceled. Ruth tried to spin it as mutual differences, but it didn't stick for long. Madison couldn't keep her mouth shut, and the truth started spreading. By the next week, everyone knew exactly what happened. Here's the fallout: Ruth and Walter lost a lot of friends over it. Turns out people don't appreciate being part of a wedding where the groom's parents are caught trying to bribe another woman into replacing the bride. Derek stuck with Madison for about 3 weeks. She bailed as soon as she realized the social status upgrade she was promised wasn't materializing. No wedding, no fancy lifestyle, no cash flow. Just Derek and his wet cardboard personality. Madison got absolutely roasted online. Collie may or may not have shared some of those Miami stories with exactly the right people. And me, honestly, it hurt. It hurt way more than I wanted to admit. For a long time, I kept wondering what I'd missed, how I didn't see the signs, how Derek let it get that far, how Ruth and Walter thought they could actually pull this off, like we were characters in some ridiculous soap opera. But once the dust settled, there was this weird sense of peace. I wasn't married to a man who didn't actually love me. I wasn't tied to a family that thought I'd never be good enough. Instead of spending that weekend crying in my wedding dress, I spent it with my real friends. We threw the most ridiculous non-minus wedding party you've ever seen. Champagne, karaoke, we even brought my wedding cake and demolished it with forks. And somewhere around midnight, I realized I wasn't sad anymore. I was free. And honestly, that felt infinitely better than any wedding ever could have.